Missouri Highway Patrol releases information about a crash involving a MoDOT truck that killed a semi-driver.
A restaurant owner in Chanute, Kansas details his difficulties obtaining COVID-19 relief funds from the Small Business Administration. You'll hear from him coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Storms push into the 4 states from the north, bringing potentially heavy rain. This is KOAM News at 6. Checking in with Doug Heddy for a first look at the weather.
Yeah, Dal, things have really picked up over the past 15 to 20 minutes as this cluster of storms is dropping into the area. First off, you can see the severe thunderstorm watch. This is in effect until 10 p.m. all of Missouri and parts of Kansas. They're going to have to, the SPC's, Storm Prediction Center, is going to have to do something about this area. They'll add it into this watch or create a secondary watch as this cluster is dropping off toward the south and to the east. And it has a very intense outflow boundary on the leading edge. And what that is kind of like the storm creates a little bit of a cold front. So a very strong wind gust, but this cluster is producing winds at 80 to 85. So that is hurricane force winds moving into Bourbon County, tracking back into Allen County. And then we also have a new warning, which is out for Woodson County. So our severe thunderstorm warnings, Woodson, Allen, Bourbon County. The most intense part of this cell is going to slide right into Fort Scott as we go through about the next 20 minutes. Also on top of winds at 80 to 85, we're also getting golf ball size hail, so very large hail across the region. All these are going to continue to drop off toward the south and to the east as we go through the evening hours. So of course, I'm going to keep my eyes on these and we'll break down this entire system here in just a bit.
Sure you will. Well, those winds could be a real issue. Doug, thanks. The Missouri Highway Patrol says a Wichita man died in a crash involving a semi and MoDOT vehicle. Happened a little after 3 yesterday afternoon on Highway M, 10 miles north of Joplin. Police say 54-year-old Brian Crow's semi traveled off the right side of the road, overcorrected, then rolled over and struck a MoDOT truck. Crow died at the scene. The MoDOT driver was not hurt. The Oklahoma Employment Security Commission is expanding eligibility for cash incentives for those who return to the workforce after being on unemployment. The OESC now says that anyone returning to the workforce who's working 2 part-time jobs for 32 or more hours per week total will now qualify for the $1,200 stipend. The incentive Governor Kevin Stitt announced last month was to be available only to those working full-time for 32 or more hours weekly. Originally, Stitt has said a $300 a week supplemental unemployment benefit would end June 26th to push workers back to employers who've said some jobless workers were paid more in unemployment benefits than they'd get in wages. A restaurant owner in Chanute, Kansas is warning other owners in the food service industry about his frustration with the Small Business Administration and obtaining COVID-19 relief funds. KOAM's Mike Mahoney has more.
Greg and Sharon Barnhart have owned and operated the Grain Bin restaurant in Chanute, Kansas since 2006. And like a lot of restaurant owners, 2020 was their toughest year.
Yeah, our business was shuttered 110 days in 2020, partially because of government mandates and then some self-imposed mandates. We, like other businesses, had people that got sick.
COVID-19 was hard on the Grain Bin, but they were able to survive thanks to help from the Paycheck Protection Program. Greg thought he'd also get a helping hand from the Small Business Administration's Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which was set up to help restaurants recover pandemic-related revenue losses, and initially gave priority to restaurants run by women, veterans, and minorities. Greg says his wife, the majority owner, qualifies and that they were approved by the SBA. But as of now, they haven't seen any funds, and Greg isn't thrilled with the explanation the SBA gave him.
His exact words is that there had been a federal lawsuit filed and our grant application was being held up because of such.
I reached out to the Small Business Administration about the situation but didn't get a call back. But the SBA recently disclosed in a court filing in response to a lawsuit about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund that it's not currently processing priority applications, meaning those filed by women, veterans, and minority groups. The Grain Bin may be back to serving a healthy crowd, but Sharon Barnhart says they could still use the Restaurant Revitalization funds.
Payroll and our food orders are probably our 2 big expenses. So, I mean, if we don't have our food, we don't have a restaurant.
Greg and Sharon say they think they'll be okay, but are worried about other restaurant owners in similar positions who may not be so lucky.
You know, I'm just more worried about the businesses out there from another state or wherever that's just reopening. They may be sitting here waiting on this money the same reason I am, and they're getting nothing. So somebody needs to figure it out.
In Chanute, Kansas, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
The Restaurant Revitalization Fund could get some help soon. A bipartisan group of lawmakers recently voted to give the program an additional $60 billion. It's business as usual for the Business Expo. Pittsburgh's two-day Business Expo kicked off today at Meadowbrook Mall with the theme Out of This World. The expo was canceled last year because of the pandemic, but this year it's fully booked with the businesses in a wide range of industries. The pandemic has impacted some more than others, of course, but they're excited about the prospect of business returning to normal.
With the pandemic, I wasn't able to get out, so stuff like this, it just feels good to get back to some sort of normalcy, be able to see people face to face and share our mission that way.
Slowly over time, we did learn that business does go on in the construction field. There's still businesses being built, new construction being built. So there is a need for companies like CDL to keep things going.
Pittsburgh Business Expo will wrap up for the evening at 7 tonight, but you can catch it tomorrow from 10 to 3. Look at this. Swarm of bees. It occupied the Lamar Walmart parking lot for a bit today. The bees covered cars, including this Lamar police patrol car you saw. The bees were believed to come from a truck that was hauling them. They caused quite a stir. Bit of a buzz, even led to a crash. No one was hurt. Now, if you ever encounter a swarm of bees yourself, contact your local beekeeper.
You can call your local police department. They might have some local beekeepers they can call, or sometimes your ASCS office. They know local beekeepers around to call, or you can even get on Facebook and search for beekeepers.
The beekeeper in this case was able to collect most of the bees. Still ahead, as we continue our Staycation series, we're going to show you the 4 states location where you can get up close and personal with an alpaca. And later, Pitt State has named its next softball coach. Normally, if you want to see an alpaca in person or in Paca, you might have to book a flight to South America or at least visit a nearby zoo. But what if we told you there's a farm right here in the 4 states that not only lets you see the woolly animals, but pet them as well? For tonight's 4-state Staycation report, KOAM photojournalist Liam Mandelbaum takes us to Xenasuri alpacas in Jay, Oklahoma.
We never visualized becoming a tourist center. We thought most of our time would be with the buying and selling of animals. And initially, we wondered, well, are people going to come here? Because this is not exactly Times Square. I mean, look out the windows, right? There's nobody here. But I've been amazed that we've kind of become a magnet here. We went to an alpaca show south of Salt Lake. This was around Memorial Day weekend, 2008. When you're talking about 09 or 010, we're in the shadow of a Great Recession. I'm actually terrified week after week because we're putting out a lot of money and we're building something here from scratch. We've got more help here these days, but usually I spent most of my time getting the barn cleaned. The earlier, the better.
Been here about a year. I start about 7:30. Every day is different being on the ranch. Most days, though, we like to get in and get the barn done. Barn takes a little over an hour to go in and get both sides clean, and then it takes about an hour to feed and change out all their waters.
And the first question is, are they going to spit on me? Do they attack?
They do have 3 different types of spit, but usually they're going to be spitting at each other and not necessarily at the person. Sometimes you are in the crossfire. The animals are just like people. They all have their own personality. Some of them are going to come right up to you and let you pet them, let them touch you. The others are going to walk up to you but keep their distance.
Three types of spit. You learned something. If you want to check out Zena's Surrey alpacas for yourself, well, you're going to have to set up a tour beforehand. You'll find the contact information on our morning show page at KOAMnewsnow.com. Later, minor league basketball is coming to the four states. We're going to learn more about the Tri-State 66ers in sports.
Plus, severe thunderstorms working into the region. I'll have those details coming up next. Well, another very hot, humid day for us today. Temperatures shooting into lower 90s for highs, and then we've been watching thunderstorms, which have been building over the past couple hours, really several hours, but just working into our region, at least over the past couple hours, mainly into southeastern Kansas at this point in time. Look at all the lightning strikes. This is just over the past 3 minutes. So very electric storms, which continue to work in. But we do have severe thunderstorm warnings. So this is Woodson County, Allen County, Bourbon County, and then we'll see what, as these storms continue to drop, if we get some for Neosho County and also Crawford County on the Kansas side. But let's go ahead and look at these storms. You can see them dropping south and east, and on the very leading edge, we're getting extremely strong winds. What these storms are doing are pushing out air very quickly, so they get ahead of the storm, even 2, 3, 4 miles ahead of the rain, and you get this really intense wind gust. And with that, we're getting winds at 80 to 85 miles per hour right through parts of Bourbon County. Interesting here on the Missouri side, we saw this cluster. It's dropping into central parts of Missouri. It's pushing one of those outflow boundaries back through southwestern Missouri. So it's kind of stabilizing the atmosphere a little bit. We're still going to get thunderstorms in southwestern Missouri, but this cluster is going to be the more intense one, and it's mainly going to kind of straddle the Kansas-Missouri state line, drop south, and then also push back into southeastern Kansas. But here's Bourbon County, so here's Fort Scott. So that gust front's coming through right now, and then you get into this very deep core of very heavy amounts of rain and also some large hail. It continues, stays severe, back through Allen County, including Iola. Breaks up a little bit once it gets into Woodson County, but still very dangerous storm. And you can see now we're starting to get little pieces that are trying to develop a little bit farther south. Also, look at the hail within this storm. We're seeing ping pong, maybe even upwards to golf ball size hail. So this is right through that heavy rain core in northern parts of Bourbon County. So we're going to get very large hail with these storms, but the winds at 75, 80, 85 miles per hour. That's hurricane force winds, and that can do some damage. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think these are going to drop central parts of Missouri. These are going to start turning due south and then continue to develop back through southeastern Kansas. I really don't think they're going to make it much farther east than Joplin, so it's going to be real patchy with scattered storms in southwestern Missouri, but most of Kansas is going to get a pretty good hit as we go through the evening hours. And then I think they'll start to fall apart once they get to the Oklahoma state line, and then they'll start to redevelop, and then the Oklahoma side will start to get some showers and thunderstorms later on tonight. But at least for right now, this is the big cluster we're going to watch. All right, so elevated risk for severe weather. I'm going to keep tornado threat low. We just don't see much in the way of tornadoes with these types of storms. These are mainly hail and wind makers, and that's what we're going to be dealing with as we go through the rest of the evening hours and then into the overnight hours for us tonight. But I think the greatest severe threat is over about the next 2 or 3 hours as these storms drop through. We'll get some scattered storms after midnight, but then things will start to improve a bit by the time we head into the morning hours tomorrow. Could still have a random shower in the morning. Sunday looks good. Monday looks good. I know it still stays hot, but our humidity is going to be a little bit lower over the weekend. Then it'll start to crank back up next week with scattered storms.
Tonight, high winds and a lot of rain potentially.
Yes.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up in sports, the Joplin Outlaws aim to stay in first place in the Mink League South Division tonight. Plus, minor league basketball comes to Pittsburgh. Danny Terzer joins us with that story and more next.
Doug Hetty has earned families in Jasper County. Pittsburgh State softball has a new head coach. The school announced today that Jenny Fuller will take over the program as its new leader. Fuller replaces former Gorillas head coach Ashley Balaj, who resigned in May after 4 years with the team. She comes over from Division II Northern State, where she went 85-80 in 4 seasons. Fuller has been a head coach in college for 6 seasons, winning more than 55% of her games. The Tri-State 66ers are bringing minor league basketball to Pittsburgh. The 66ers are part of the PBA, with their schedule running from May to August. And Sports Director Jacob Leonard has more on the team's first year playing in the 4-state area.
Minor league basketball has come to Pittsburgh.
We're trying to structure it like it's like the best basketball, spring, summer, outside the NBA.
The Tri-State 66ers play their home games at the YMCA in Pittsburgh. And they're in their first season playing in the Mid-South Division of the Professional Basketball Association.
The way it's structured is a great league. It gives opportunity because we're also partnered with the EuroLeague. So film, stats, anything that's generated throughout this entire season goes over to places like that to where they're able to scout and then hopefully get players an opportunity to be able to play overseas.
I mean, I've seen players go different places, play for different teams. I just want to be one of them, Just seeing where I can take it and seeing where it goes from there, It just feels good to be back out here playing again, that's all.
My goal is to get these guys somewhere in a league where they can be making some serious money.
The roster is mostly made up of players from the Pittsburgh, Joplin, Springfield, and Kansas City areas, giving local guys a chance to show what they can do.
It is pretty nice, I ain't gonna lie, not having to drive 3 hours to go somewhere. But I mean, it's pretty nice, I think it should be pretty fun.
And those guys are hoping the local community comes out to see for themselves.
We play a very exciting brand of basketball. We're up-tempo, defensive-wise, we're always up in people's faces.
We're going to put on a show. It's going to be a great time. We're going to make it worth the time.
In Pittsburgh, Jacob Leonard, KOAM Sports.
The 66ers play tomorrow night in Pittsburgh against the Oklahoma Kings. Tip-off is set for 5 p.m. Admission is $10 for adults and $5 for kids. The Joplin Outlaws are scheduled to be back on the road tonight facing the Sedalia Bombers, but that one has been postponed due to the rain. No word on a makeup date yet. Joplin is currently at 4-2 and sitting in first place in the Mink League South Division. That's a look at sports. We'll be back with more news after this.
Take time now to honor a local veteran. Bill Mencken served in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War. Received a Purple Heart, a Silver Star, the Navy Cross, and other medals and honors for his service aboard the USS Forstall carrier. His hometown, Chautauqua, Kansas, and we are proud to salute Bill Mencken. He's tonight's 4-state hero. Jordan Abbey joins us now with a look at what's coming up on KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14.
Tonight at 9, the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled that about half the state is Native American. We're going to speak with local tribal police and how this affects them. Also, the Olympics are just weeks away. Nonetheless, Japan's prime minister hopes to gain support for even having those Olympics despite ongoing pandemic concerns. And a new study shows more seniors are catching on to texting. That and much more coming your way tonight. KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14.
Jordan, thanks. Doug, part of the area experiencing some intense winds right now.
Yeah, we have severe thunderstorm warnings, Woodson County, Allen County, Bourbon County, and then a new one in Neosho County, Kansas. These winds are clocking 80 to 85 miles per hour. Hurricane force and golf ball size hail. Of course, we'll keep you updated here.
Please be careful out there. Let's take care of ourselves and each other and make it a great evening.
If you see news